Hello friends! Unlike some competitors, such as the Megane RS, Volkswagen used a simple solution on the front axle of the Golf GTI. So early buyers may have been worried about how the new car would ride, but today's owners benefit from it. The complex kinematics of fast Renaults are more conducive to fast driving, but when it comes to suspension repairs, owners usually clench their teeth. A pseudo-McPherson strut is installed on the front axle of the GTI. While the regular Golf has sheet metal welded arms, the VW GTI 5 has stiffer triangles. This did not affect the ease of repair. Ball bearings and both silent blocks can be replaced separately. Special is the rear arm support, which is inserted into the silent block, which is part of the aluminum bracket. Buyers of the Golf GTI 5 had a small choice of powertrains. At first glance, they are all the same. A working volume of 1,984 cubic centimeters, identical piston stroke and cylinder diameter. Even the power is unchanged, 200 horsepower. But in fact, there were two different motors. Until 2008, an older 4-cylinder EA113 series engine was installed. It is marked with the codes AXX, BPY, and BWA. The timing gear is driven by a toothed belt combined with a short chain connecting the intake and exhaust camshafts on the opposite side of the cylinder head. This solution has been used by VAG since the 80s. Softness of work is provided by a cartridge with a balancing shaft in the bottom cover of the engine. In 2008, the turbo engine was replaced by a new generation of the EA888 series with the CAWB code. Instead of a belt, a chain was used, and the balance shaft migrated to the block and was driven by a thin, short chain. In honor of the 30th anniversary of the model, the 30 GTI version was released. Its power has increased to 230 horsepower due to the engine with the BYD index from the EA113 series. The old 4-cylinder EA113 series turbo engine is the safest choice. The timing belt should be changed every 90,000 kilometers. After 150 to 200,000 kilometers, you should not ignore the auxiliary short circuit, which drives the intake camshaft from the exhaust. The turbocharger bearing assembly is included in the engine cooling circuit. In addition, the cooling of the assembly continues even after the motor has stopped. Coolant circulation is provided by an auxiliary electric pump. The turbocharger is associated with a malfunction in the air bypass control system. This is a shutoff valve, the main task of which is to accelerate the response of the turbocharger to gas operation. When the gas pedal is released, the bypass channel opens to relieve intake pressure. Otherwise, the jet of air would hit the closed throttle and then rush in the opposite direction, i.e. against the flow. The air bypass valve is a stepper servo motor that controls the diaphragm. Over time, it cracks. As the crack increases, engine power decreases. Because it happens gradually, many owners don't even notice it. The defect is observed on an increasing number of engines. VW even issued a technical bulletin about the situation, TPI, similar to TSB. Although the Golf GTI has never had a diesel engine, some engines may sound similar. There are several reasons. For example, the fuel tank vent valve may be the source of the noise, but it continues to perform its function properly. Extraneous sounds can also be emitted by the pusher of the high-pressure fuel pump, a sign of wear. The problem primarily affected engines with the 2006 to 2007 BPY index. VW pointed out a defect in the TPI. The manufacturer prescribed the use of fuel with an octane rating of at least 98. Prolonged use of the 95th can lead to burnout of the valves. Beware of erratic idling after the engine has warmed up. The more modern CAWB of the EA888 series is more economical, but suffers from a number of fatal defects. Timing chain stretching and high oil consumption, which is caused by a miscalculation in the design of the pistons. To combat oil burns, not only modified pistons are installed, but also connecting rods, since the new pistons have a different piston pin diameter. The motors were combined with 6-speed gearboxes, manual or DSG. The robotic DSG-6 received the so-called wet clutch. The DSG requires regular maintenance. The oil must be changed every 30,000 kilometers. To do this, you need 5.2 liters of fluid, which unconditionally must comply with the VWG 052-182A2/A6 standard. Regular oil changes will significantly extend the life of the robot. Over time, due to inevitable mechanical abrasion, small fragments of clutch elements and differential gears accumulate in the transmission fluid. Before buying a GTI with DSG, you should check the operation of the box. If twitches or vibrations are felt when starting the car, then you should think twice before buying this instance. In the worst case, this means the imminent end of the control part of the box, mechatronics. From the foregoing, we can conclude that buying a GTI with a manual transmission is a safer choice. The 3rd and 4th generation Golf GTIs drove passably, but no more than that. They lacked the spark. To fans of the drive, the cars seemed clumsy. The rear elastic beam could offer nothing more. Changes for the better brought the 5th GTI. Independent rear suspension, stiffer bodywork, and careful tuning promised a return to basics. The 5th edition of the GTI is much more interesting than the later 6th edition. The GTI 5 offers amazing driving performance to this day. It corners at unhealthy speeds, literally leaning on the outer front wheel, which seems to be glued to the road. You will feel more than in any other car how the rear axle corners the hatchback, and it seems that it wants to overtake you. This is all the result of well-thought-out rear suspension kinematics. The Volkswagen Golf GTI 5 is exactly the kind of car that constantly encourages you to go faster and faster. The higher the speed, the more obedient the hatchback. It is a little boring at low speeds, slower to respond to steering commands. But as the speed increases, it starts to come to life. Reactions to steering commands are brilliant, as if the car is losing some of its weight. Sometimes it seems that the grip of the wheels with the road is limitless. At the time of creation, the 5th Golf seemed quite large. Today, it is inferior in size to modern compacts. Despite this, the Golf is quite roomy. The driving position of the GTI 5 is not exactly on the road, but very low. The seats fit your body perfectly. The GTI engine delivers exactly the kind of performance that's fun, not intimidating. The turbo engine will disappoint only those who are waiting for really explosive dynamics. Everything else is good, if not great. If you know of other model malfunctions, be sure to write about it.